Okay, we are well into the end game now. We just have the quarterly review and the yearly review left. And by this time, I think we are starting to get the drill. The element connections of the quarterly review. First of all, we have a connection to the daily review because we want to once again show ourselves that rating score that we had over the past quarter. Then we're going to be connected to the monthly review so that we can actually look back at the reflections that we made during our monthly review. We're also going to have a connection to the yearly review so that we can do the same there, but then actually do that during our yearly review. So at the end of the year, we can look at all the reflections that we made per quarter. Then we have a connection to the 6 life areas because we want to check in with the generative ability for each of these areas. One vision goal. We try to do one vision goal per quarter, and that means that over a period of 18 months, we have all 6 vision goals. So that is sort of the cadence inside the system. But like I said before, you can always revisit them more often if you want to. And yeah, if any core insights come up during our monthly reflection, then this is also the moment where we can add them. All right, as you can see over here, quarterly review is indeed linked up with those vision goals and with that life area. Now, we are not doing any knowledge during the quarterly review, so it's purely based on reflection. And this graph should also be looking quite familiar now. I also hope that it is starting to click what we're doing here. We are layering everything on top of each other, and through those layers we can start seeing patterns in our behavior in real time, and from those patterns we can then distill these core insights, right? We just built that core insights database. We can then distill these core insights, for example, from this from this quarterly review or this yearly review, and we can then use those to set vision goals out of which we create projects, and like this we start getting this iterative cycle. We get a better understanding and we can then execute on that. Okay, but I don't want to beat you with a dead horse. I'm not sure if that's a saying, but still don't want to beat you with a dead horse. And I actually realized we have not ticked all of these boxes quite yet. We did indeed do all of these things. We've been scaling that system. We've been doing all of this stuff. Okay, beautiful. Let's build this quarterly review database. Over here, I'm going to make a page. I'm going to call this quarterly review, making a table. And then the icon that we use for this one is this star symbol. And then actually, I'm going to add that over here. We're going to call this the master table. Once again, frowning like a madman. This one, probably the simplest database that we've made so far. We only have the name of the quarter and the date span. So from when till when this quarterly review actually goes. So all the magic of the quarterly review does indeed happen inside of the template. So let's open this one up. And let's say quarterly review template. I'm actually going to remove this part over here. And we could just put this as a bind. Okay, just make it super duper basic. The first thing that we want to do is we want to look back at all of the reflections that we made during our monthly reviews in the past 3 months. So if we've been doing every single monthly review, during those reviews, we fill in these reflection questions. And basically, we just want to check back with the answers that we gave for those particular questions to see if any of these patterns are popping up, right? Because maybe we experienced something 2 months ago that sort of, was gone into the back of our minds. And then as we're reading it, we realize like, oh, wow, that's true. I went through that at that moment. That was very important to me. And maybe now in hindsight, I see a pattern here because maybe there's a relationship between what I reflected on that month and the month after. So by just reading through it, we both refresh our memory as well as giving ourselves the opportunity to sort of reflect rather look for those patterns. So the first header we're going to create is called reflection. And then we're going to go into this reflections database. And then over here, you can see we've already made this view. Previous months. All of the reflections that we made during the previous months. And now let me just see. I think this filter is perfect. So we can just add that to our quarterly review template. Actually, let me add this one over here as well. Okay, so I'm going to say linked view of this reflections database. And then we're looking for previous months. Okay. Now, one thing to keep in mind here is that Notion does not allow us to set a filter that is on or after 3 months ago, right? So if you remember correctly, we can do is on or after a week ago, or we can do is on or after a month ago, but we do not have an option to say is on or after a quarter ago. So what we do instead is we have this start date here that says is on or after custom date. And then at the beginning of every quarterly review, you have to change this custom date to the actual one that you want to see, right? So just to keep that in mind. And then over here, you can see the answers that we made for all of these questions during our monthly review. Now, sometimes you might not have filled in your monthly review. Maybe you've only done 1 or 2, maybe you've done 0. Then nothing will simply pop up here. And that is perfectly fine, right? Principle number 6. So I'm a little bit confused. I added 1 principle just before recording this video, and now my whole mental catalog is a little messed up. But we are not working for our systems. Our systems are working for us, right? So if you haven't filled it in, don't be upset. Don't feel like you failed. It's perfectly fine. Even if you only fill in half of these reviews, you're already making a very big dent in your personal development. So don't sweat it too much. The next thing that we want to do is we want to once again show those daily rating scores that we've been tracking. We want to show them on a little bit of a larger scale. So to do that, we have to go into our daily review. And then I'm actually going to take this daily ratings. And now we're going to change this one up slightly, because if we're going to make, let me just call this, daily ratings. If we're going to have 90 of these bars, it's going to get pretty crowded. So instead, we're going to have a slightly different chart, and we're going to go for a line chart. I'm going to remove this group by, and we're going to smooth out these lines. Let's see, more style option. Smooth out these lines. And I actually do want to see the data labels. Okay, so we're doing rating score average. And I want to show it by review date. But instead of doing it by day, we're going to do it by week. So we get the average score. Actually, it changed this to count. We want to take the average score that we did per week. So basically what it does now, it is tracking the rating scores that we have been tracking during our daily review, right? Over here, we've been doing this rating score. And then it's giving us the average on a weekly basis. Now, it's showing all of these very round numbers. I wonder if that's just because we just so happened to have it just so happened to be that we had very round numbers. Okay, so just like this, we're going to have a graph, and currently it's only 4 weeks. During the quarterly review, if we've been tracking quite consistently, we get this 12-week graph in which we can sort of see a fluid line for how we rated our days. Just a nice little insight into how we were feeling in real time during the past month. So over here, I'm just going to add that one. And we're going to say daily review. And we're going to say daily ratings. And there we have our chart. Actually, we need to change this to is on or after. And once again, this will have to be a custom date, right? Because we're unfortunately not allowed to say is on or after a quarter ago. So here you would also have to say after July 1st, 2024. Let me quickly change that over here as well. So we're going to set this one to custom date. Okay, beautiful. The next thing that we want to do is our actual quarterly review. Now, something to keep in mind, and something that I've also struggled with a bit in the past myself, is there's quite a lot of reviews in this system. And if everything syncs up, you would have a weekly, a monthly, and a quarterly review all at the same time when you do your quarterly review. And filling in all of those reflection questions can really just be too much. So what I would recommend doing is take the longest possible review and fill in the reflection questions for that one, right? So for example, do the quarterly reflections and then skip the reflection part of your monthly and weekly reflection. Because otherwise, if you're going to do it all power to you, but realistically from experience, that is not what's going to happen. So once again, better to have some realistic expectations instead of expecting the moon from ourselves and being like, I gotta do everything perfect, which is never gonna happen because we are not perfect. I didn't make the rules. I didn't decide it. I didn't decide us not being perfect. In case you missed it last time, you can get free access to the masterclass worksheet by dropping your email address down below. And inside of this worksheet, you will find a step-by-step outline to track your progress as you're going throughout this masterclass. You will also find all of the slides that we are using in this video. You will find the formulas that we're using in the system ready to go, so you don't have to write them all yourself. You can simply just copy-paste them in there. And this one's really, really juicy. You will also find the 2 original reflection databases. And this will literally save you hours of time in setup. You don't have to add 100 questions and create 30 views. You can just grab those databases, plug them in there, and start using them straight away. And then as a little cherry on top, we also have all of the database and template covers that you can style your pages and make them look beautiful. So if you want to grab all of these free goodies, then drop your email address down below and I will send them over to you right away. Let's see. We have our quarterly review, and I'm pretty sure we still have to link this database. And while we're at it, yes, we're just going to go edit and we're going to say relationship and just relink this with the actual quarterly review that we just made. That's nice. And then go back into that view that we had open here, quarterly review, and just make sure that we reset this one, and then we can go into this template. And just like that, database first design. Like I said at the beginning of this masterclass, 95% of this system is database. It's just databases layered into each other, and it allows for so much flexibility and easy building. Okay, here we just have a whole bunch of reflection questions. We're not going to look at all of them. You can just simply look at them yourself. I think all of them also have reminders added to them. Yeah, there's always reminders here that tell you a little more about the question. So these are just some prompts for things to reflect on at the end of every quarter. Okay, that's the reflection part of the quarterly review. The next and also the last part is the insight. So what we're going to do now is we're briefly going to check in with our value statements, with our core principles, and with our affirmations. Now, you don't have to change anything about them, but this could be a nice moment to just spend some time. Maybe you've captured a value statement at some point, but haven't quite filled in the reflection questions yet. Or maybe based from all of these questions and all of this reflection that we just did, we gathered some new insights. So this will be the moment for us to sort of add them to those respective databases. So let's actually create these views. We will go in here. I'm actually just going to duplicate this one. I'm going to call this one value statements. We'll just give it this little star. I'm just going to change this property instead of type. I want to see the resonance. It also has been sorted by resonance. And instead of affirmation, I want it to say value statement. Okay, so that's automatically a value statement. And then we're going to do the same for core principles. But then instead here, we're going to say, I only want to see principles. Now we can add this to our quarterly review template. And so then inside of here, we will see all of our active value statements and all of our active core principles and all of our active affirmations. Just going to hide these. Currently, these are empty, but of course we can just simply add a new statement here. We can create a template and we can just simply fill it in, right? This is how everything is structured inside of each other. From here, we can just simply create one and easy peasy, just like that. Core principles, same. And then the affirmations, also the same. Let's go ahead and take this one out. Okay, then the next thing that we're going to do is we're actually going to grab, first we'll need to make a new view. We're going to grab the 6 life areas database. And in particular, we want to create a view that allows us to easily change the generative ability as well as the rating score that we give to all of our life areas. So we're just going to hide these over here. I'm actually going to put the generative ability over there. I believe, yes, there we go. Okay, so let's say, for example, this is just a little example. Okay, we can have it like this. Beautiful. Okay. This could be the page that we have during our quarterly review. What we can now do is just briefly reflect on all of these different life areas and ask ourselves the question, what would I currently rate this life area at? And how much time and energy do I want to be investing in this life area the upcoming quarter? So for example, if you realize like, hey, my mental area has gone down to a 2, I actually want to give some more focus to that. You can say like, okay, I'm going to put 30% of effort into this one. But then also that might mean that now we're at 110% in total, which of course doesn't work. So it also invites us to think about what other areas to put less effort in on. So for example, if I'm going harder on this mental area, maybe finances aren't that important this quarter because I got it figured out quite a lot. And then we'll just actually sort this by that generative ability. And we just get a little overview of how much focus we want to do per life area. Now, this is not going to be dictating how you live your life, right? You just fill this in. It's more of setting an intention that maybe 1 month in, you realize like, hey, I've been hanging out a lot with people this past month. And then you think back and you're like, oh, true. That's also actually what I wanted to put more effort into. So it just helps you set a little bit of intention. Now, later we're going to add an automation and a formula to also track how this rating changes over time. But that's something for the more advanced stuff in the next part of this masterclass. So for now, we're just keeping this rating score like this. And then the last thing that we do is actually checking in with our vision goals. Now, let's first build this view. So I'm going to say vision goals. And then we're going to go into properties. I'm going to hide everything. I want to see archived. I want to see the time horizon. And I want to see the date created. I'm just going to put this one over here. We're just going to make that one a little bit smaller. I'm going to give the goal name a whole bunch of breathing room. I'm going to put this one over here. And I'm going to put date created. And we're going to put date created. How about instead we just do time elapsed? Or how about we just do both? Time elapsed and date created. There. That looks pretty. Okay. We are going to add this to the quarterly review template, but I want to emphasize that the goal here is not to look at every single vision goal. I mean, if you want to take a full day or 2 days to do your quarterly review, then by all means, do look at every vision goal. But the purpose is to look or explore one vision goal per quarterly review. And this means that when we have one vision goal per life area, that over a period of 18 months, we would revisit every single vision goal. And this would also be my general recommendation when using this system. I've had people ask me, like, do I need to fill in every single thing in one go? And I would say, if you have the time and energy to do so, all power to you. But realistically speaking, you got a whole bunch of other things going on in your life, so you can just ease into it. Just create your first vision goal during your first quarterly review. Just create your second vision goal during your second quarterly review. And by the time you are 18 months down the line, you will have your 6 vision goals. So you can just ease into it. So that would be my tip. Just cover one vision goal per review. And actually, we need to create one filter over here that says archived is unchecked. Okay. Boom. And just like that. That is our quarterly review. We don't need to create a new one at the end of the review because there is no planning ahead. And yeah, very simple like this. Now, the last thing that we can do here is create a little gallery view. I'm just going to say quarterly reviews. And then we have a bunch of covers specifically for the quarterly review. Now, all the covers that I currently have are outdated, so I will update these covers. And also, if you purchase the Notion of Life system, you get access to all the original design files. So you can get the current banners and everything for free. But if you want to get the original design files that you can alter them and change them yourself inside of Figma, then that is part of the package that you get when you purchase the Notion of Life system. Okay, let's see. Why am I getting a goat here? I'm actually going to say layout. And then like that, we could create I want to make this large. And like that, we could create a gallery with all of our different quarterly reviews.